The shocking truth: 5 hidden vices you must abandon for true spiritual freedom. Few knew what truly happened that night when the sky darkened over Jerusalem. A crowd gathered, whispering, hearts pounding. It wasn't just a ruckus, it was at the moment when legends collided with reality. In the shadows, behind the flicker of torches, stood a man, Judas Iscariot. His face twisted by conflict. He had walked beside the Messiah, seen the miracles with his own eyes. Yet, an unseen force gripped his heart. Money, guilt, or betrayal that would echo through eternity. The air felt thick, as if a storm was about to break. This wasn't just any night. It was Passover, a sacred celebration. The city of David bustled with energy, but betrayal lurked in the corners. The significance of this act was monumental, and the stakes life or death of their savior. With each step Judas took towards the high priest's chamber, the tension skyrocketed. Voices rose, clashing against the dark. Not everyone approved. "What are you doing?" a voice called out, filled with desperation. Could anyone have foreseen the troubles within the heart of one who had been chosen? The weight of coins clinked in his pocket, a sharp reminder of the price of faith and treachery. What compelled him to choose silver over the love of a friend? The moonlight danced through the trees, illuminating the chaos in his soul. But what would happen next? Would Judas find redemption in his cowardice, or was this the final step towards utter darkness? The implications of his choice loomed, casting shadows far beyond that fateful night. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the streets of Jerusalem, the atmosphere grew thick with expectation. The evening air, tinged with the aroma of freshly baked bread and bitter herbs, was a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing within Judas. With each passing moment, his heart wrestled with the weight of his decision, a battle unseen yet deeply felt. In the distance, the flickering candles in homes and the sounds of joyous laughter from families preparing for the Passover feast filled the night. Yet, within the chamber of the high priest, an alliance was forming, forged not by love but by the desire to extinguish the light that had illuminated so many souls. What would this night bear witness to? As Judas arrived, the glint of silver in his pocket felt like lead. The men gathered around him, cynical, calculating. They did not see the man before them, they saw a means to an end. And Judas, caught in this perilous act of betrayal, felt a hollow emptiness. Was he truly selling a friend, or was he a pawn in a greater game, manipulated by forces beyond his understanding? Meanwhile, in a modest room elsewhere, the chosen was gathered. They were oblivious to the unfolding treachery, lost in the comfort of their companionship. Jesus, with compassion sparkling in his eyes, shared the bread and wine, proclaiming the new covenant, a promise of love, forgiveness, and hope. Did he foresee the darkness creeping closer, or was he intent solely on offering grace to those around him? Every piece of bread broken carried a weight of significance, a reminder of the frailty of human resolve. Would the disciples recognize the moment for what it was? Or were they too enthralled by the man who had walked among them, too consumed with their own uncertainties to grasp the gravity of the sacrifice approaching? Back at the priest's chamber, Judas's resolve faltered as memories surfaced, moments of laughter, shared teachings, and miracles that defied nature. Suddenly, the silver coins felt less like treasure and more like the chains binding his heart. What led him to this juncture? Was it truly his greed, or perhaps an overwhelming fear of being left behind, of failing to understand the message of Jesus in its entirety? As he stood with the conspirators, one of the high priests leaned in, eyes glimmering with dark ambition. "Are you ready to deliver him to us?" The question hung heavy, ominous, reverberating through the chamber like a death knell. Judas' eyes caught a glimpse of the moonlight, piercing through the thick walls, bathing everything in an ethereal glow. Could this act be reversed? Could one find a way back from the edge of despair, or had he already sealed his fate, surrendering his soul for a fleeting moment of security? And as the city around them celebrated freedom from bondage, one man stood at the precipice of his own spiritual collapse. Was it too late to reclaim the innocence he once cherished? In choosing the silver, had he truly abandoned all hope, or could this path lead to another kind of liberation, one that would forever change the fabric of history. These heavy thoughts lingered like the scent of incense in the air. How could betrayal dwell so closely to love? Were not the boundaries of darkness and light perpetually intertwined? With these reflections, one question emerged: in the face of overwhelming doubt and fear, what remains of one's humanity? As the night deepened, the shadows lengthened, converging in the narrow alleyways of Jerusalem. The stars twinkled above, silent witnesses to the unfolding drama. Yet beneath that celestial panorama, the hearts of men were mired in more than just mere events. They were entwined in an age-old struggle between love and fear, faith and betrayal. Judas found himself wandering under the moon's watchful gaze, each step drawing him further into his turmoil. How had he strayed so far from the warmth of Jesus' teachings? The echoes of laughter from the Passover celebrations faded into the background, replaced by the heavy thudding of his heart, a relentless reminder of the choice he had made and the price yet to be paid. As dawn approached, Judas longed for quiet assurance. He sought solace from all he had learned during those 3 impassioned years of ministry: the stories of forgiveness, the miracles that left crowds in awe, and the gentle rebukes that whispered of a love greater than any fear. Each lesson had sewn together the fabric of a profound truth, yet now that fabric felt tattered, strained by his inner conflict. In that moment of despair, he recalled a time when Jesus spoke of the Good Shepherd. How the shepherd knew each sheep by name and would lay down his life for them. In his betrayal, would he become the wolf devouring innocence, or could he still find redemption? As thoughts swirled through his mind, the specter of doubt loomed larger. Did the others ever comprehend the depth of that love? Perhaps they too were caught in their own struggles, glimpsing a path but unsure of how to tread it. Meanwhile, back in the intimate gathering, Jesus was sharing heartfelt words with his disciples. "This is my body, broken for you," he had said, the bread crumbling in his hands, a symbol of sacrifice profane yet divine. The disciples leaned in, their expressions a mixture of confusion and admiration. Was it possible they sensed the dire meaning behind his words? Did they understand that each morsel consumed in faith also contained the potential for eternal life, or were they simply wrapped up in the experience of the now? The air in the chamber became laden with the heaviness of impending sorrow, yet the mystery of grace lingered still. Jesus' voice held an extraordinary power, transcending time and circumstance, as he extended an invitation to surrender. "Come, all who are weary and burdened, and find rest." In that moment, would Judas remember those words? Or had he wandered into a labyrinth of his own making, forsaking the guiding light in pursuit of shadows? Once more, the question pricked at the conscience of the betrayer: could one act of surrender turn the tide? Could he lay his burdens down before the one who promised to carry them? Or was he destined to remain shackled, forever trapped in his choice? As he pondered, a flicker of hope pierced the darkness. He recalled the parables told of lost sheep and the joy of finding what was thought to be lost. Would he be welcomed back should he seek the light anew? The thought filled him with both yearning and fear. Was this yearning his final plea for redemption, or just the remnants of a once clear vision? The night waned, and the first light of dawn began to claw at the edges of the horizon, igniting the sky with hues of gold and pink. In that moment of transition, Judas felt the weight of his choices pressing ever heavier. Would he embrace the dawn of a new day or allow the shadows of the past to extinguish the spark of hope? And so, he stood at the crossroads. Before him lay the possibility of sanctuary. Yet the path to forgiveness seemed as elusive as the morning mist weaving around Jerusalem. In this fragile juncture, one question lingered, stirring within him: what is true redemption if the heart remains divided? As the sun ascended, casting its warm light upon Jerusalem, a hush wrapped the city in a tranquil embrace. The streets, once vibrant with the sounds of revelry, held an air of anticipation, the kind that dances just before a storm. Previous encounters and whispered conversations ran through the minds of the disciples, creating a tapestry of emotions both familiar and foreign. With Jesus at the forefront, they gathered in the humble chamber, unaware of the tempest brewing in the heart of one among them. Judas stood at the fringe of the assembly, the weight of his impending choice gripping him like a vice. He scanned the faces of those who loved Jesus deeply, their eyes shining with faith, oblivious to the conflict plaguing his soul. Did they see in him the same devotion? Or had he become a silhouette, a ghost haunting the very legacy he once revered? With trembling hands, he clutched the edge of the table while Jesus spoke of the bread and wine, elevating them to symbols of the covenant that bound them to God's promise. "This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins," he said, his tone sacred and resolute. Was it the fullness of compassion or the imminent darkness of betrayal that filled Judas' heart in that moment? It was difficult to discern as swirling emotions clouded his judgment. The other disciples began to murmur among themselves, trying to decipher the weight of those words. Peter, with his characteristic fervor, exclaimed, "Surely not I, Lord." A ripple of guilt surged through the group, their feigned innocence masking an unspoken fear. Each was aware, in their own way, of the fragility of their bonds. Like a thread pulled too taut, it could snap with the slightest tension. Judas felt the stirring of grief within him, an immeasurable sorrow for himself and for the others. He longed to confess the turmoil churning in his chest, yet shame silenced his heart. Would they reject him, casting him out as a pariah, or would they extend the hands of forgiveness so freely offered in Jesus' words? At that moment, a troubled thought emerged from the recesses of his mind. Was this gathering truly a celebration of unity, a foreshadowing of grace, or a lamentation for what was about to be lost? The horizon of hope seemed to flicker like a dying ember, replaced by the encroaching shadows of his choices. Undeterred, Jesus continued, his eyes piercing through the veil of pretense, directly addressing Judas without naming him. One of you will betray me. The declaration hung in the air, suffocating and heavy, as if a curtain had been drawn back to reveal the darkest truths hidden from view. In that moment, eyes turned to Judas, a collective gasp echoing through the chamber, a blend of disbelief and sorrowful awareness. I said I. Echoed a voice, trembling with fear, followed by others, a desperate chorus seeking to shed guilt while binding themselves closer to an innocent truth. Yet Judas felt but a single weight, the spotlight upon him felt unbearable. The roiling flames of his decision threatened to consume him whole, yet the fear of confronting it stifled him further. With trembling lips, he lowered his gaze. What have I done? The question echoed against the walls of his heart, a haunting refrain of despair. Could he still rise from these ashes? The image of the Good Shepherd, tending to lost sheep, lingered longer in his thoughts. Would he be remembered only for his sorrow, or defined by the redemption that yet remained elusive? As the morning sun rose higher, washing the chamber in golden light, Jesus drew closer to his disciples, who sat entranced by both words and the palpable tension in the room. Know this, he said gravely, that it would be better for that man if he had never been born. The weight of the moment bore down on Judas, as if the earth itself had shifted, revealing a chasm he could neither cross nor escape. Concealed in the recesses of betrayal lurked the ever-present opportunity for mercy, but at what cost? Everything in him sought to recoil, yet still, a glimmer of hope flickered in the recesses of his heart. In this torment of choice lay the promise of release. Could redemption truly exist even in the face of darkness? As the assembly wrestled with the magnitude of Jesus' words, Judas was left with a profound inquiry, one that clung to his consciousness like a shadow. Can light truly break through the deepest darkness, or must one first embrace the shadow to find their way back into the light? The air in the chamber thickened with tension, and the faint sound of distant echoes wandered through the hearts of the disciples, each man grappling with the implications of Jesus' words. Even as hope danced around them like wisps of smoke, beneath it lay a deeper dread. Each faced his own vulnerability, an intricate web of fear and longing that threatened to ensnare them all. Jesus endeavored to steer the atmosphere toward remembrance, gathering the bread and breaking it with reverence. As he handed it to each disciple, saying, "Take, eat, this is my body, given for you," the solemnity washed over them like waves upon a shore, erasing the laughter that once filled the air. With every piece of bread shared, thoughts of betrayal shadowed Judas' mind, casting a pall over the communal atmosphere. Peter, still wrestling with turmoil, inhaled deeply, a frown creasing his brow. "Lord, why do you speak of your body as if it were to be broken? Is our time not yet come?" His voice, quivering with both confusion and concern, beckoned clarity from Jesus. With a gentle yet piercing gaze, Jesus continued, "This is the new covenant in my blood, poured out for many. It is for the forgiveness of sins." Whispers of revelation blended with the clinking of goblets, each disciple mesmerized yet frightened by the gravity of their shared mystery. But Judas' heart swirled with darker intentions, a tempestuous inner storm that conspired against grace. Each drop of wine that touched his lips was tainted by the knowledge of his impending act. He watched the vibrant hues of crimson, reminiscent of the life flowing in sacrifice, and wondered if he was truly worthy of the forgiveness Jesus proclaimed. As they dined, a flicker of disquiet rippled through the gathering when Jesus looked beyond the table, cleansing his soul with foresight. "Tonight, you will all forsake me," he warned, his voice steady despite the undercurrents of anguish. "But after I am raised, I will go before you to Galilee." "Not I, Lord." "You know my loyalty," exclaimed Peter with conviction, yet beneath his bravado lurked doubt, almost imperceptible. Thaddeus chimed in, "Could it be that our faith can falter in this hour?" Slowly, Jesus turned to Judas, whose heart began to race and pulse with mounting dread. "No less will I ask of you, Judas, yet you must be true to yourself, lest the darkness consume even that which you hold dear." There was something both piercing and compassionate in his words, a glimmer of understanding and sorrow that mirrored their shared humanity. In this moment, Judas felt the weight of chains invisible yet binding. The temptation to believe this was inevitable surged within him. Can forgiveness exist without accountability? Can a transgression be unshackled from what has already transpired? He pondered silently. The outside world grew dim as shadows danced in the flickering candlelight, the room now a sanctuary for deep questions and arduous contemplation. Outside, the streets of Jerusalem buzzed with life, unaware of the battle within this sacred gathering, where destiny and choice intertwined like vines, threatening to choke the essence of faith itself. While the wine and bread continued to be shared amongst the disciples, Judas sought a way out of the turmoil he had invited into his heart. Could he still claim the joy of belonging while harboring such despair? Surely, within their aisles of unity lay a pathway to transformation, if only he could grasp it tightly before it slipped away. As the meal drew to a close and Jesus spoke words of love and foreboding, Judas could not silence the gnawing pang of despair. Each heartbeat echoed questions that rang like bells. Have I forged my own chains, or are they mere reflections of the darkness I fear? What if the very act of betrayal I contemplate most stems not from disdain, but from a profound susceptibility to the shadows I wish to escape? As they prepared to part, a silent question loomed large among them, one aching to be voiced amidst the heavy silence: how far can love reach even toward those who seek to betray it? The flickering candles cast long shadows on the walls, as emotional currents surged through the hearts of the disciples. Each man found himself grappling not only with their personal disquiet but also with the interwoven threads of community and destiny. The room felt both sacred and fraught with an unsettling air, like the calm before a storm. When the final morsels of bread were consumed and the chalices emptied, Jesus rose from the table, his eyes scanning the faces of those gathered before him, friends, followers, and brothers. Come, he beckoned softly but with authority, let us go to the Mount of Olives. As they departed, the weight of the impending night pressed upon them. Jesus led the way, his footsteps firm even as uncertainty hung in the air. He walked with purpose, yet the disciples struggled to follow the path he illuminated for them. As they climbed, whispers filled the silence. A desperate need for understanding. Peter, ever the bold one, broke the stillness. Master, you spoke of forsaking, but what if we cling tightly to you? Can our faith not conquer fear? Despite his fervor, the tremor in his voice betrayed an undercurrent of doubt. Jesus turned, pausing to observe Peter's steadfast gaze. It is not merely strength of resolve that matters, Peter. Faith flourishes in the soil of vulnerability. It is in weakness that the spirit can find strength. His voice was firm yet tender, yet these words unsettled Judas further. Could vulnerability shield him from his tumult? He could sense layers unraveling within him, exposing raw fears and hidden desires. What if strength came not from standing firm, but from a willingness to embrace uncertainty? With each step toward the mount, the essence of belonging intertwined with trepidation, urging him to question whether he ever truly sought the light. At the foot of the olive trees, the moonlight spilled across the ground like gossamer threads, and Jesus turned to face them, the silver glow enhancing the gravity of the moment. Pray that you may not enter into temptation, he urged, a deeply resonating in his tone. For this night will test the very heart of faith. The disciples gathered in a half circle, kneeling among roots and stones, their heads bowed low in reverence. Still, the whispers of doubt flickered through the trembling leaves. With their eyes closed, they sought clarity, yet each prayer echoed deep questions, searching for answers beyond mere words. Judas, caught in the tumult of his own thoughts, found himself grappling with a dichotomy that mirrored the age-old struggle between light and dark. If I lead him to betrayal, will I find freedom, or will it only deepen my confinement? Dark thoughts whispered as they came to the fore. What if my choices are already breathing life into a fate I long to escape? The moon watched silently, holding space for the conflicting emotions that swirled among them. In that moment, one thing became clear: each disciple faced his own shadow, whether it be fear, pride, or betrayal. And through this collective discord, they were being shaped, not merely for themselves, but for a purpose much larger than they could perceive. Soon, the stillness was broken as Jesus returned from deeper solitude, his face radiant yet marred by sorrow. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak, he declared, and the significance of his words grasped at the hearts of those present, reverberating through the silence that followed. Lord, do you fear for us? Came the hesitant question from one of the others. An acknowledgement of the fragility within them all shone through, casting reflective light on their shared humanity. Fear is but a shadow cast by the uncertainty of love, Jesus replied, placing a hand gently on Peter's shoulder. Stand firm, for love conquers even the darkest of nights. As they contemplated this profound assurance, a new question lingered in the air: how does one reconcile the weight of love with the reality of impending trials? And what, ultimately, is the price of true loyalty in the face of fear? The night deepened, enfolding the disciples in a silence that seemed almost tangible, as though the very air weighed upon them. Jesus had retreated once more into the depths of the olive forest, his figure shadowed and solitary against the backdrop of ancient trees. The disciples, left to ponder the heaviness of his words, exchanged glances, their hearts troubled. With the moon casting a soft glow upon the scene, Matthew found himself reflecting the habit of calculation that often consumed him. He thought about the choices each must face, and how these decisions intertwine destinies. What makes one act with honor while another succumbs to betrayal? He wondered aloud. His voice trembled slightly, breaking the fragile silence. Is it will alone that determines the path we walk? Or is there something more elusive at play? James, contemplating Matthew's question, gazed at the stars overhead, twinkling like distant promises. Perhaps it is not just a matter of will, he replied thoughtfully. Maybe every choice we make reverberates through the fabric of our lives, binding us to the past while propelling us toward destiny. The discussions among them deepened, tracing an arc that spiraled around doubt and courage, illuminated by the echo of their master's truth. Yet as they spoke, the undercurrents of anxiety coursed through them, awakening thoughts of their own hidden vices. Thomas, quiet until now, spoke up with raw vulnerability. Could it not be blindness that leads us to stumble? Blindness to our own flaws, and in it, we betray both ourselves and each other. His words struck a chord, and a collective acknowledgement swept across the group. They were not merely wandering in the dark, they were unearthing the shadows within. I wonder, Peter ventured, his voice steady despite his inner turmoil, if the very love we aspire to is tied to our fears. Can we genuinely love if we are shackled by our past mistakes? Each word seemed to hang in the air, seeking clarity amidst the fog of their emotions. As they debated the heavy implications of their questions, a rustling nearby drew their attention. Jesus returned to them, his presence both comforting and unsettling. He carried an air of grave solemnity, and his eyes bore the weight of the world. I asked you to watch and pray, he said gently but with a firmness that pierced through their restless spirits. For my sorrow is deep, I am overwhelmed. His admission revealed a chasm of vulnerability, a shared understanding that even the Son of Man felt the sting of human emotion. Master, Judas whispered, barely able to hold back the storm churning within him. Is it possible that even you face the choice of surrendering to despair? The question resonated in the air, a haunting reflection of his own turmoil as he grappled with the notion of betraying the one who had shown him such profound love. Jesus looked at Judas with deep compassion, an understanding that resonated far beyond words. Despair and truth are woven together in this life. Yet, it is your response to that truth that defines you, he answered, the light in his gaze illuminating Judas' hidden fears. There is a way out of shadows, a path to redemption even when all seems lost. In that moment, the disciples felt the weight of choice hang heavy between them, a precipice between loyalty and treachery, love and loss. They were pushed to ponder their own hearts, their own vices, and the blurring lines of faith and doubt. And as the night pressed on, they were left with lingering thoughts of what the dawn might reveal. When light breaks after the longest night, which choices will they carry forward, and what unseen vices must they cast aside to embrace the true freedom that Jesus spoke of? The stillness of the night deepened, and a palpable tension enveloped the disciples as their master stood before them, his sorrow casting a long shadow over their hearts. The forest thrummed with unseen threats, and the sound of rustling leaves whispered secrets they dared not acknowledge. Each disciple felt the weight of their own uncertainty, their inner convictions joining the chorus of fear that simmered beneath the surface. As Jesus settled among them, the air thickened with emotions unspoken. My friends, he began, his voice calm yet imbued with an urgency that demanded attention. There is a greater trial ahead, one that is not for the faint-hearted. He paused, glancing at each of their faces as if searching for reassurance in their eyes. You must be prepared, for the night is dark, and shadows will loom larger than ever. Suddenly, the gravity of their situation shifted, and the disciples were compelled to confront the source of their struggles. Master, John ventured, his youthful spirit imbued with curiosity, how can we be ready when we do not even understand the depth of our own hearts? What if we falter? Jesus, with an unwavering gaze, replied, in the night, hidden things may be revealed that which you seldom wish to confront. The vices I have spoken of are not mere distractions, they are chains that bind your spirit. They distort your vision and bind your hearts to fear instead of faith. To break free, you must name them. The name of fear wrapped around them as they exchanged uncertain glances, mulling over their own vulnerabilities. Peter recalled his moments of rashness, how bravado often masked insecurity. Is it fear that drives us to act unwisely? My temper, my impulsiveness, are they not vices that throw me into darkness? Yes, Jesus nodded. Fear can lead one to pride, which puffs up rather than builds up. It can create illusions of control while casting shadows of doubt. He turned to Thomas, whose brow was furrowed in contemplation. What can you see when you peer into your own heart, Thomas? With a deep breath, Thomas confessed, doubt. I cling to it like a shield against disappointment. But in doing so, am I not sacrificing my trust? The atmosphere shifted as vulnerability hung in the air, feeding the interconnected struggle each faced. Doubt is the fertile ground for despair to take root, and despair leads to loneliness, Jesus conveyed. These are some shadows you must abandon, surely, but there are others. Anger, envy, and greed, they poison love's well. When these vices dwell within your soul, they assure isolation even in fellowship. Judas shifted uncomfortably, the words cutting deeper than he wished. His mind raced, reflecting on the gem of truth he had hoarded, knowing jealousy that festered since he first laid eyes on the attention Jesus bestowed upon others. What if we are lost already? Can these chains be broken, or are they destined to remain? Lost? Jesus echoed, the sternness of his voice entwined with tenderness. Every sinner is a seeker yearning for light. Do not forget, even in your weakness, there is grace waiting to be embraced. It flourishes among those who acknowledge their need for forgiveness. The disciples fell silent, the profound weight of his words settling in their hearts. The moonlight seeped through the branches above, casting a soft glow that illuminated their thoughts and hopes. But how can we trust again after betrayal? James murmured, echoing the collective hesitation. By recognizing that love is the antidote to every vice, Jesus offered, his countenance unwavering. When love binds your hearts to one another, nothing can sever it, not even the temptation to forsake each other. You must challenge darkness with a love that transcends your fears and regrets. As the stars twinkled above like scattered promises, the disciples felt a flicker of illumination, revealing the path ahead, a path laden with trials, yet glimmering with the hope that true freedom lay in the grace of love. They were reminded of the complexity of their struggles as well as the potential they held, yet, as Jesus finished speaking, an unsettling thought echoed within them. Would they be able to cast aside their hidden vices in the face of the impending trial? Would their love be enough to mend the fractures within? As dawn approached, a sense of uncertainty lingered. What sacrifices were they willing to make to embrace the truest form of love, to break free from their chains? With the tension in the air still palpable, the disciples remained tethered to their thoughts. Jesus, aware of the internal battles raging within them, felt the weight of their fears and doubts. The moon dipped lower, and a stillness settled like a fog over the grove, as nature appeared to pause in reverence for the moment unfolding amongst them. Let us cultivate the courage to confront these chains, Jesus urged, sensing a flicker of determination in their eyes. For while the night may seem long and desolate, each dawn brings with it the gift of a fresh start. Light has the power to illuminate even the darkest corners of your hearts. He gestured to the horizon, where a faint glimmer marked the arrival of dawn. What do you seek in this light? Peter gazed into the distance, the dawning light reflecting his inner turmoil. We seek to be whole, Master. Yet how do we reconcile our past and all the ways we have stumbled? Each wrong step is a reminder of our imperfections. Indeed, Jesus replied, kindness woven into his tone, but understanding your past is not solely about reflecting on mistakes. It is about recognizing the growth that springs from them. To seek redemption is to acknowledge your need for it. As the edges of the forest began to soften under the light, the shadows seemed to retreat slightly, offering a moment of clarity. Andrew, his brows knitted in contemplation, spoke up, Master, we have witnessed the power of your love, yet can our own love be enough to withstand the trials ahead? What if our hearts falter? Your love will be tested, Jesus affirmed, but that is part of your journey. Trust that every trial is an opportunity to embody the love you have received. It is a fire that refines and strengthens. He paused, feeling the gravity of their concerns, then continued, in this uncertain hour, remember that my heart is always with you, even when the road appears dark. But how do we foster love that can endure? James implored, seeking guidance amidst the encroaching clouds of doubt. What must we do to fortify our hearts against the temptations of betrayal and resentment? Love is not merely an emotion, Jesus explained, his gaze steady and inviting, but a choice, a daily commitment to see beyond oneself. Engage with compassion and humility, for they fortify the bonds between you. In your moments of doubt, return to each other, not apart. Vulnerability breeds connection, and connection, through love. The atmosphere held a newfound energy as the sun crested the horizon, illuminating their surroundings. The early morning light sparkled upon the leaves, bringing an expression of hope that seemed almost tangible. But for all the promises of light, a shadow of uncertainty remained, nestled deep within their hearts. Thomas, his voice tremulous with a mixture of fear and wonder, whispered, "What if love is not enough in the face of despair? Are we to be held captive by our vices, even while we strive for the light, or, despair has an insidious way of creeping in?" Jesus replied, anticipation lurking in his tone. "But remember, despair is a choice as well, a choice that all can resist. When doubt sings its siren song, counter its whispers with the truth of my love. Let your hearts disclose one another's struggles, for clarity dispels shadows. As the disciples listened, the weight of their unspoken fear shifted under the charge of reassurance. Each felt an inward yearning and understanding that the true challenge would not be in facing the trials to come, but in the daily decision to love courageously in their imperfections. Yet despite this glimmer of truth, an unshakable question loomed large. Could such a love withstand the darkness? Could they, with all their vulnerabilities, truly turn to one another in times of despair? The dawn continued to stretch across the sky, but the path ahead remained shrouded with uncertainty. As light broke anew, so did the question of whether they would find strength in their unity or cower in their shadows. What would it take for them to fully embrace the light, despite the weight of their past they could not outrun? As the sun ascended higher, bathing Jerusalem in a golden embrace, a powerful stillness swept over the city like the hush before a storm. The air was thick with anticipation, for the moment of revelation had arrived. With breath held and hearts racing, the disciples found themselves in a silent communion of shared fears, regrets, and the flickering ember of hope that had begun to illuminate their weary souls. In the wake of darkness, Judas Iscariot stood at the crossroads of his fate, grappling with the weight of betrayal that clung to him like a shroud. The choice he had made echoed relentlessly in his mind, a haunting reminder of the path he had walked. Would he step into the light of grace, or plunge deeper into despair? As he felt the bitter chill of morning and the warmth of the sun in equal measure, he understood the clamor within him was not merely of his own making. For those who had once believed in the unconditional love of the Messiah, the shadow of fear often felt more tangible than the promise of redemption. In that moment of reckoning, as the weight of betrayal bore heavily upon him, a flicker of clarity pierced through the fog of his despair. It was the memory of the countless moments spent in the presence of Jesus, each word spoken resonating with a love that transcended understanding. The laughter, the miracles, the raw, unrefined moments of vulnerability shared among brothers, these memories spoke of a love that knew no bounds, even in the face of darkest betrayal. Could he truly cast all of that aside for 30 pieces of silver? His heart raced as he reeled from the epiphany. Perhaps love and redemption were not confined to lofty ideals but existed even in the most fractured of circumstances. With the dawning light illuminating his path, Judas found himself yearning for something more than the fleeting comfort of earthly rewards. What if he chose to confront the darkness instead of succumbing to it? What if, instead of sealing his fate, he sought forgiveness from the very one he had betrayed? This intimate wrestling with his conscience became a transformative moment, sparking within him a desire to reach for the light, to redefine his legacy. Feeling the heavy gaze of Jesus upon him in his memory, he could hear the gentle echoes of love, the haunting melodies of compassion, calling him home. And so, as the sun continued its ascent, he took a deep breath and stepped forward, ready to break the chains of betrayal that had shackled his heart. In that instant, Jesus appeared among his disciples, the embodiment of love and grace. His countenance shone with that divine light, unstoppable, unwavering, and ever-inviting. "Judas," the Lord's voice rang out, rich with dignity and an unfathomable understanding of human frailty, "what you intend to do, do quickly. Yet know this, the outcome is not fixed as you believe. You still hold the pen to your story." His words echoed through the group, resonating with every disciple, confronting them with the power of choice that saturated their existence. They realized they, too, were inextricably woven into this tapestry of love and grace, their destinies intertwined. Judas, standing on the precipice of surrender, felt the enormity of the moment envelop him. As Judas approached, the air shimmered with an electric tension. Jesus met his gaze with an unwavering certainty, eyes brimming with the weight of compassion. "You have been lost," he said, affirming the truth that lay between them, "but I am the way. Return to me with your whole heart, and I will embrace you." Before the eyes of the other disciples, those who had once seen him as a harbinger of betrayal, Judas felt a transformative shift within the atmosphere of their gathering. As he knelt, vulnerable and bare before his master, God's grace enveloped him like a warm embrace, reminding him that even in his darkest hour, redemption was still within reach. The others stood by, their hearts plummeting yet strangely lightened in their own desires for forgiveness. They had not been enscathed by fear, nor were they exempt from the complexities of faith tested by the trials of life. Would they rally around their brother who had stumbled, bind their hearts in love, and confront the darkness as a unified strength? As the moments passed, they felt something ethereal unfold between them, a fragile bond strengthened not by the fear of betrayal, but by the visceral truth of shared humanity. In that sacred space, they understood that love conquers all, and forgiveness mends the hardest wounds. As the sun cast a golden halo over the assembly, Jesus turned to his disciples, inviting them into the depths of grace, urging them to let go of their fears and transgressions. For in your willingness to love beyond betrayal, beyond doubt, you will find true freedom. As dawn fully broke over Jerusalem, illuminating every corner of their hearts and banishing shadows, the disciples stood entranced, renewed by an all-encompassing truth. They were not merely followers, they were champions of a love that transcended every struggle, destined to unveil the depths of grace in a world steeped in darkness. Judas rose slowly, transformed, carrying with him the weight of his past and the illuminating hope of reconciliation. In that moment of divine encounter, a revelation unfolded not just for him but for all. Love, when embraced fully in the face of hardship, ignites an unquenchable flame of redemption that holds the power to reshape destinies. What began as a singular act of betrayal had morphed into an invitation for collective rebirth. So they stood together, imperfected yet beautifully intertwined, ready to step into the new day, the weight of hidden vices lifted, hearts ablaze with the profound realization that through faith, love could indeed conquer the deepest despair. In this newfound dawning, they knew, without a shadow of doubt, that every trial faced together would resound with the echoes of love, a melody that never fades, and a legacy that reverberates through time, reminding all of humanity that true spiritual freedom lies within the embrace of grace and understanding.